Lionel, and I'm your host for LT Productions, and you are watching I Watch You Watch. We are covering Diarra from Detroit. This is on BET Plus every Thursday. I am here today on Tuesday for a double feature. Hopefully you have caught my other review for Complicated Atlanta, which is a hot web series that you can see on Amazon Prime and also on Tubi. So check that video out on something that possibly you are not watching. I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video. Also subscribe to my channel. And you can leave your comments below. Alright, so let's get into this episode. This is episode 4 of season 1. And it's entitled All In. And this starts off with a forward scene of Buddy Barbers. There's a guy named Buddy Black from back in the day who used to host all these poker games. It's underground. The likes of all the prominent Detroit people like Barry Gordy and all them used to go down there and do what they do. Now their daughter, or their granddaughter, runs the business. Her name is Maisha. As they are at the barbershop about to go down to where the gambling takes place, Maisha says, I only have one rule, and that is to respect my effing game. And then we get, I don't want to say commentary, but the voiceover of Diarra was talking about, you know, this is stuff that white women or white people actually do. As far as run into danger, there's always some type of resistance from black people, like, oh, well, that's drama, I'm gonna stay up out of it. But for whatever reason, this black woman wants to run into trouble. So we go back a few days earlier. We see the guy that was looking for the Russian, or the one that fought the Russian that was looking for Chris, his name is Tank. He has basically a geek squad looking up information about Diarra. The most information that they got was concerning SWAT. And they got it by, I guess, a license plate tag or whatever. And he's like, this is not the information I'm looking for. I'm looking for a woman. And they said, well, possibly they do ride in the same car. All right, so all the gang is together. Reggie, Aja, and Monty, and Diarra. Diarra has put together, after the good win of finding Deontay's stuff in the stove area, that she believes that Chris slash Deontay came back to solve his own kidnapping. And the same people who kidnapped him back in the day now has it out to get him. Aja suggests that, or Chris is the one who kidnapped Deontay. And Diarra's like, what? What are you talking about? That didn't happen. Let's think sensibly around here. And basically, you are being negative. And Aja is offended by that and basically said, hey, I'll leave. There's a basketball jersey that's within the whole box that Diarra did find. There was some type of basketball camp that was going on back in the 90s. She ends up finding the different sponsors that were for this basketball camp, and one was Mr. Greeks. She remembers Mr. Greeks is when she dialed the number that was in the Russian's phone, the only number that he had, I guess, dialed out, or at least coming in or whatever, and hearing that name. In the next scene, Diarra, she's visiting with her lawyer. That's kind of this new lawyer, as you can tell. And she's not really keen to some of the stuff that she's talking about with this divorce. Diarra's in a no-fault state. And SWAT is looking to not pay any spousal support because of what she said that she has moved on. And the settlement, the lawyer wanted to know, did she want to go to settlement or to court? And immediately, Diarra said, court. I know that's right. Come on now. I'm glad she got some sense. We move on and we talk about Moni and Roman. I think they are at the shop. She is offering discounts for Impalas right now. I think that they found some information about looking into, what was going on. Tony Kincaid. Tony Kincaid led these basketball camps that Deontay was with. We'll find out a little bit later about him, but he used to own this Impala, or somebody used to drive an Impala. I think I wrote some things wrong down, unfortunately. Wrong. she's looking for pervs, and the guy that set up, and she's trying to set up a criminal profile. And Roman's basically like, "What are you doing? Daria's making you really look nuts out here in these streets." And Monty basically says, "You can't tell me what to do and what not to do." They're still going at it and bickering, and he ends up yelling at Monty. He ends up apologizing and suggests that they go to the theater. And she does agree to that. Daria at school, we get a voiceover in regards to teachers and how some things that she really didn't pay attention to as far as being underpaid. And I think the two things that have been bothering her the most is being underpaid and undersexed. Probably a third thing also is that she has insomnia. And I think because now that she's undersexed, she did not notice some of the things that are really bothering her. As far as even with being a teacher. She settles down the class after them being very loud. And Daria, she's looking up different basketball camps. She thinks possibly Dante went with someone that she trusts, aka Tony Kincaid. And his other name was Tarantula, those spiders. Because they ended up finding all these spiders that they keep that it looked like Deontay had sketched out. It's just kind of creepy and weird. She thinks that the tarantula can be linked to all the spiders that Deontay draws. Daria tells Amani and Reggie that she called Vonda to find out more information about Tony. And Tony had a liking to underage boys. He would have sleepovers with Deontay, even though Deontay could not play for Ish. Tony had a Chevy dealership. And in 1997, he got into an accident with a minor. They're at the same restaurant, and Tony comes in. And Daria goes to approach him. Daria goes over there like, "Hey, I'm a teacher, and I was wanting to see if I could get..." I don't know if it was... She wanted to get some type of interview or whatever. But Tony's wife scared her off and says, "Look, he doesn't do any type of photo ops or anything. You lose." I said, "Okay." And it looks like Tony Kincaid. I think that's John Sally. And didn't John Sally back in the day play for the Detroit Pistons? I think. Don't quote me on that. But anyways, he's playing in this role. I said, "Okay, go John Sally. I didn't even know you were an actor." So after she got blown off, she was trying to get Reggie to go over to the wife, or go over to Tony. And he said, "Nuh-uh, let's talk about who killed the Russian." So, and I think she kind of deflected at the moment. She was like, "Well, it's not really about who killed the Russian, who sent the Russian." Maybe Tony used the mob as his muscle as they were trying to collab. Daria ends up telling them everything that she knows about this Russian guy. Daria also thinks that maybe Chris is laying low and is probably... And they need to come up with a plan to nail Tony. Daria's at this moment thinking that Tony is the one that kidnapped Deontay. Alright, so Daria has this night dream with Chris. Basically, he is her rest, or whatever you want to call it. They play Truth or Dare. Chris says truth. And he says, "What is one of the most freaky..." Well, she didn't say it this way. "What places have you gotten freaky at?" And I forgot where he even said it was at. Then he asked the same question to her. And she says, "We didn't really do anything frisky. I liked what he liked." And then Chris said, "Until you didn't like it." Bingo. And then all of a sudden he wants another woman. It seems like there was a breakdown in the relationship well before the whole "let's bring another person into the bedroom." And I think it got so bad because they didn't try to fix it or even try to acknowledge it that now it's unrepairable. What did they talk about? Oh. Then he asks the question, "How are you?" And then she says, "I'm hanging on by a thread." And then he asks a dare question. A dare. Well, what was it? Daria chose from the Truth or Dare situation a dare. And he says that, "I dare you to let me lick you." So at this point, he goes down on her. But then in real life, we see that Daria has a vibrator. Alright, so at the school, SWAT is there. He finds out that Danita has sent a bouquet of dildos to his brother. And what happened was, Daria was trying to get a file from Deontay's file, and Aaron ended up saying no. And that was her response to him saying no. Both are being petty and reading each other down. It was kind of funny to hear it. Then he pulls out the file that she wants. And he says that I will give it to you if you stop embarrassing me. And she says, look, I'm not the one that's embarrassing you. It's the suits that you keep on wearing from your mother. Oh, so they trade some more insults. Basically, he says you have 24 hours. She agrees to not embarrass him anymore. Let's see. So she's going through the file. Reggie is there at this point, and Tony was not questioned. His alibi is that he was out of town, and he was not at a lot of games that year. She ends up finding out that the only time that he is alone without his wife is at the poker game that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. So then she tries to learn what poker is all about. She's not good at card games and all this good stuff. So she ends up studying Tony and seeing that it's easy to break Tony, but you gotta stay getting on his nerves to get frustrated for him to blow up. When he blows up, he ends up telling the truth. So Monty ended up saying, stay at the table long enough to break him. You gotta break down his defenses so he can tell you what you want. So SWAT and Daria, they end up meeting for dinner, and you can tell that he's trying to woo Daria into some type of agreement to settle. But Daria's not biting. She's ready to go off in the restaurant that she's at. He says, don't do that because I have clients here, blah, 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 blah. SWAT ends up agreeing to, because she's complaining like, you left me with all these bills. He ends up apologizing and saying, I agreed to pay for the bills for the next 3 months if she returns the baby, the car. And she also says, I need 2.5 stacks. He ends up agreeing to doing that for her. And basically she needs that to gamble, but she's never going to tell SWAT that. So, Daria and Aja talk. They make up at this point, which is great. Aja finds out at the restaurant of where Chris was hanging out at that the waitress said that Chris would always be there alone and he would scribble out all these spiders because she found a spider in one of the bathrooms that she was at. So now it's really time for the poker game. She ends up finding out the SWAT stopped the payment on the check, and now Daria has insufficient funds. She ends up calling SWAT, and his lawyer said that he was giving her everything that she wanted, and that's not really a good thing or a good sign. So he ended up stopping the check. So she ended up giving every dime to her name that she had, at least in her possession, before the insufficient funds. All right, so Moni and the husband. She's looking at the different cards. Roman kind of sees her, and I think that they were trying to play some type of role play or whatever. It didn't go over well because Moni's still concentrating on, is that another Impala that's in the shop? And Roman is frustrated with her. And Moni's like, I really want to go back to Crazy Moni. She was fearless, and she was respected. But there was also a negative side to the whole situation with Crazy Moni. That's what Roman was trying to remind her of. He basically says, I know you want to be known for something more and you want to have something. I'm satisfied with being a father and husband and an owner of the shop, blah, 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 blah. We go back to the poker game. Diana keeps on folding while playing the game and talking ish to try to piss off Tony. She ends up, while she's still trying to piss him off, asking about Deontay Brooks and the accident. And he's like, why are you bringing up all of this old stuff? Blah, 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 blah. Diana thought she finally called whatever it is for poker, and she thought that she was going to win, and she ended up losing. Diana is sitting upstairs, and Maisha is about to pry out one of her teeth with one of the wire plier things that they got for tools. Tony ends up stopping it, and they sit her down and allow Daria to ask the questions that she wants to know to Tony. We find out, as far as with the car crash, he was drunk and he was driving with the minor, and he's been trying to make it up to the parents since then. We find out in 1995 where he was when Deontay was kidnapped. He was in rehab. So at this point, this has thrown Diarra all off her game. Tony thinks that Diarra has a gambling problem, and she was throwing, and then she went along with it. At this point, because she thought that Tony was the person that kidnapped Deontay, and now finding out it wasn't, it's thrown her off, and she's begging them for money, and he basically says no, and they throw her out. Oh, she did ask about the Russians, the Greeks and all that. He says, I have no affiliation than going to one of their sponsor dinners that they have every year. That's all I got going on. So then Diarra goes home. She's lost all hope, and she's seeing a vision of Chris, and he's asking her, how do you know I'm still alive? Then all of a sudden, Ambien calls, at least on her phone. She answers it, and then all of a sudden, somebody takes the phone, drops it, and smashes it. That was the end of that episode. So it's really getting good, because we know that Chris is still alive. We saw Chris get kidnapped and all that good stuff. I don't know if Chris is Deontay or not. That's my own thing right now. But give me your thoughts below on what you think of this season thus far, even this episode. Let me know. Stay tuned for episode 5. I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And leave your comments below. All I did is say comment. So anyways, until the next video, peace.